Good morning. I'm Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. I'm being joined today for this WTR Biotech Spotlight podcast by my colleague, Senior Research Analyst and creator of the Biotech podcast, Do Kim, to discuss the formal launch next week of Do's biweekly Biotech podcast series. Do, thanks for joining the WTR podcast this morning.
Hey, Tim. It's great to be here.
So let's start out by having you provide our podcast listeners with a brief overview of your professional background, please.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate being on here to announce this new podcast for Water Tower Research. I'm very excited for us to just talk about the recent developments in biotech and hopefully get some good guests on here. I have a background in equity research, mainly covering biotech companies on the sell side for over 20 years. Started out at Thomas Weisel Partners before that company was acquired by Stifel. Spent a couple of years as a healthcare generalist at Safra Asset Management, then spent the rest of the time as a senior biotech analyst, going from places like Nomura, BMO Capital Markets, and most recently Piper Sandler. I joined Water Tower Research as the senior healthcare analyst covering biotech, but also medtech, life sciences, and tools and diagnostics.
We couldn't be more excited to have you on the staff, Do. Despite the self-explanatory name, what will your biotech podcast series consist of?
Yeah, that's a good question. We know that biotech is very innovative. There's a lot of transformational therapies being studied out there. We also know that drug development is extremely difficult, and a very small percentage of them are actually successful and make it to the market. And that overall makes biotech stocks, especially for small and mid-cap companies, just highly volatile. And we often see binary events that occur. One of the reports that we put out at Water Tower is a Biopharma Week in Review. And I cover company and industry news that meaningfully move biotech and pharma stocks that occurred in the past week. What we envision for this podcast is to have conversations about some of these stock moving events and guests that who could share their expert opinions and knowledge on those particular events. We're thinking that we could provide more visibility into some of the lesser known biotech companies, or even in the therapeutic areas that really don't get the attention that other hot sectors get, like obesity or immune diseases. But we'll also talk about what's impacting the industry, the macro environment, the regulatory and policy changes. That's really big, what's going on right now, the therapeutic trends, and generally what biotech investors are focused on.
I'm looking forward to it, Do. I continue to read that there are a lot of IPO candidates in the pipeline, so it should be a really intriguing year all the way around in biotech. So moving on, what types of guests can I expect on your biotech podcast?
Yeah, we're looking to have biotech executives come here, the CEOs, the chief medical officers who can talk about science, and really discuss their recent clinical trial data, the drug that's in development, talk about their mechanism and the disease area, and what those results could mean for patients in the long run, and how the regulatory path moving forward looks like. We hope to get some medical experts to discuss the treatment landscapes that's ever changing, new drug classes and modalities, the areas where there's therapeutic need, and maybe get some physician preference in the various treatment options and what exactly that they may be focused on that's coming down the clinical pipeline. And I think that it would be great if we also talk to these biotech investors and these thought leaders in these industries on the state of biotech and how the public and private markets are doing. That's been extremely important in this interest rate environment that's been fairly volatile itself, and it definitely creates problems in fundraising for these non-profitable biotech companies, and ultimately just look at the impact from macro factors. If you look across the industry, there are over 500 publicly traded biotechs out there. And I think that this could be a forum where listeners could gain valuable insight and awareness of lesser known areas of biotech, as well as a broader perspective of the general industry. We'll be starting out with bi-weekly episodes, so you could expect a new episode to drop every other Wednesday. Just generally excited and looking forward to sharing these discussions with our listeners.
I absolutely can't wait for this to get kicked off, and I think you're going to be wildly successful and have a very broad audience. Thank you for letting us glean insights into the exciting bi-weekly biotech podcast series that you'll be formally kicking off next week, Do. To read Do Kim's industry and company-specific equity research reports, as well as to access countless other small-cap equity research reports on multiple sectors from Water Tower Research, please go to www.watertowerresearch.com.